I was brought into their mansion to mop marble floors and wash crystal glasses, never to be kissed beneath them. Mzanzi never planned to steal the heart of the heir, but the moment she did, the cost of love became blood, secrets, and betrayal. Mzanzi was the kind of beautiful that hurt to look at for too long. A girl from the dusty outskirts of Johannesburg, her skin was rich like polished mahogany, her eyes deep and stormy like African rain, and her voice, whenever she sang during chores, had the weight of stories generations deep. She arrived at the Fall residence in Cape Town barefoot, holding a thin bag of clothes and a letter of recommendation from the church. Hired as a housemaid, she bowed before the marble staircase on her first day and met him, Sidi Fall, the golden son, heir to the Fall empire, charismatic, clean-cut, dressed in designer linen and casual indifference. But when his eyes met Mzanzi's across the sun-drenched foyer, he didn't see a maid. He saw fire, quiet, controlled, dangerous. That night, he couldn't sleep. It began with stolen glances, then quiet conversations in the garden, a brush of fingers over a shared glass of lemonade, laughter in the laundry room, every rule bent until it broke. It was Keisha, Sidi's youngest sister, the rebel with a wild afro and love for poetry, who first saw them beneath the jasmine arch at night. "I won't tell," she whispered, stepping out of the shadows. "But you need to understand something, Mzanzi. If my mother finds out, she'll burn you down to ash. You don't belong in this world." Mzanzi nodded. "I know." But she wasn't leaving. Sidi's mother, Madame Sophia Fall, was beauty aged into steel. A former Miss Senegal, now a high society matriarch with eyes that sliced like glass. She sniffed out weakness like perfume and wore power like pearls. She called Mzanzi into her art room one morning. "I see the way my son looks at you," she said, never lifting her eyes from the canvas. "Like you're some rare fruit from the village he must pluck before anyone else sees it ripen. But let me make this clear. I will never let my son marry a maid." "I didn't ask him to love me," Mzanzi replied, voice shaking but firm. "No," Sophia said, finally looking up, "but you let him." Outside the door, two of Sidi's sisters listened, Malika, cold and calculated, and Tenny, who smiled with her mouth but never with her soul. They had plans, and those plans never included a village girl becoming family. Oddly, it was the father, Chief Jabari Fall, who saw something in Mzanzi. "You remind me of my mother," he told her one afternoon as she arranged flowers in his study. Strong, poor, and brighter than anyone in the room. He didn't care about the class divide. He saw loyalty in her, grace, intelligence, love. He called Sidi into his cigar lounge that night. "If she's the one, fight for her. But don't expect an easy road. Love outside your circle is the kind that gets you wounded." Sidi only smiled. "Then I'll bleed for her." The whispers began. Rumors that Mzanzi was manipulating Sidi, that she was sleeping her way into wealth, that she was pregnant, that she was cursed. One night, while Mzanzi prepared Sidi's birthday gift in the garden, someone slipped a drug into her water. She woke up in a strange bed, clothes disheveled, beside a man she had never seen before. A camera flash, then darkness. When she returned to the house in tears, Sidi was waiting, silent, hurt. "I didn't do anything, Sidi. I swear it," she whispered. He believed her, but the photo had already gone viral, leaked to tabloids by someone in the family. Sidi's sisters wept fake tears. His mother stood with her arms crossed, and the world branded Mzanzi a seductress. The twist didn't come until a week later, when Keisha found the hidden SIM card behind Malika's perfume cabinet. On it, a voice recording. Malika and Tenny, plotting with a man from an escort agency, setting the trap, paying him to pose beside Mzanzi and destroy her name. And behind them, their mother's voice. "Make sure the maid never rises higher than the floor she was hired to clean." When Sidi heard the tape, rage overtook him. He called a family meeting, played the recording. The room exploded. His mother tried to deny it, but the damage was done. "I'd rather lose every cent than marry into your poisoned grace," Sidi declared. Then he turned to Mzanzi, knelt before her in front of them all and said, "They'll never accept you, but I already do." She stared down at him, trembling. "I love you," she said, "but loving you may kill me." "Then we live dangerously," he replied. They packed their bags that night. Sidi left the family business, cut ties, started his own media company with the money his grandfather left him. Mzanzi became his partner, then his wife. They lived in Durban and started a scholarship for rural girls and told their story across Africa. But power never sleeps, and back in Cape Town, the Fall sisters began rebuilding a darker plan. They had lost the heir, but not the war, because one of them had a child, and the child looked nothing like her husband. It looked like Sidi. The child was named Zina, 3 years old, honey skin, Sidi's eyes, Mzanzi's cheekbones. But Mzanzi had never given birth. She stared at the photo in horror, sent anonymously to their Durban home. The envelope was plain. No note, just the image. Zina in a garden, laughing, wearing a Fall family pendant. Sidi took one look at the picture and turned to stone. "It's impossible," he said. "It can't be." But deep down, he knew. The night before Mzanzi reappeared drugged in that stranger's bed, he had been drunk, alone, vulnerable. Malika had comforted him, played the part of the understanding sister. And now, the impossible had a face. "I don't remember sleeping with her," Sidi whispered to Mzanzi. "I swear to you." Mzanzi's hands were cold, her heart slower than usual. "But you're not saying it didn't happen." He said nothing. The silence was a blade. She turned away from him and locked herself in the bedroom. For the first time since escaping the Fall mansion, she felt poor again. Not in money, but in power. She had no control over her story, no safety, no peace. That night, she had a dream. She saw herself standing on a burning balcony, holding Zina, while Sidi begged her to come down. When she woke up, her hands were shaking. Keisha showed up unannounced, her hair longer, her spirit fiercer. "I've been watching them," she said. "Malika and Tenny have plans. Zina was a trap, but it's not about Sidi anymore. They're coming for you, Mzanzi." "Why?" Mzanzi asked. "Because you won. You took their legacy and made it louder than theirs. You turned love into a revolution, and now they want to finish what they started." Keisha handed her a flash drive. "You need to see this." On it was security footage from years ago, unedited. Mzanzi wasn't drugged randomly. She was injected. By Tenny. And the man in bed with her, an actor, paid, mic'd up. The entire scandal had been scripted, to destroy her. Armed with the footage, Mzanzi and Sidi flew to Cape Town. They arrived unannounced at the Fall family's charity gala, dressed in black, hand in hand, standing like vengeance in heels and linen. Mzanzi stepped onto the stage. "Before you donate your millions," she said into the mic, "let me show you how this family handles love." The footage played, gasps, murmurs. One man dropped his wine glass. Chief Jabari stood up slowly, eyes never leaving his daughters. "Get out." The Fall name collapsed that night. Investors pulled out, sponsors vanished. The media pounced. But something else happened too. Zina, now confirmed to be not Sidi's child through a paternity test, was dropped at their door a week later. With one note, "She deserves a real mother, and only you ever were." Signed, Keisha. Raising Zina wasn't easy. Mzanzi wasn't sure if she could do it. Some nights she cried, holding the little girl, thinking of all the ways life had tried to break her. But Zina would look up at her and say, "You're my real mommy." And Mzanzi's heart would beat again. Sidi changed too. He stopped trying to be perfect. He became present, real, and flawed. He apologized without ego, loved without fear. They weren't a fantasy anymore. They were a family. But just as peace began to settle, Madame Sophia Fall had gone silent for a long time, until one morning a lawyer knocked on their door with news. Sidi had been written out of the Fall inheritance. Everything had gone to a trust in Zina's name, and Safia was listed as a guardian. Unless Mzanzi and Sidi could prove in court that Zina was safer with them. And the trial was scheduled for the same month Mzanzi was due to give birth to her first biological child. Because love doesn't just win, it fights. The court case was dubbed by tabloids as the battle for Zina. It wasn't just legal, it was a spectacle. Socialites, journalists, and old family allies came to watch Sidi and Mzanzi defend their right to keep the child they never birthed, but raised with everything they had. Safia arrived in full designer armor, wrapped in lace, diamonds, and cold dignity. She waved at the cameras like a queen returning from exile. In court, her lawyers painted Sidi as unstable. They brought up the viral scandal from years ago. The leaked photo, the rumors. They tried to discredit Mzanzi entirely. She is a former maid, Safia's lawyer spat, unqualified, unfit, unknown. And this was never her world to begin with. Then Keisha took the stand. She'd come back not just to help, but to reveal everything. "I betrayed my mother," Keisha said under oath, "and I'd do it again." She provided a signed letter, hidden for years, written by her late grandmother. A document stating that Sidi's father had always intended to leave everything to Sidi and any child he chose to raise. That included Zina. Then came the twist. Keisha pulled out a second document, a confession, written by Malika on her deathbed. "Zina was never about family," Keisha read aloud. "She was a weapon forged by our mother to destroy Mzanzi, but I couldn't live with the guilt, and I couldn't love a lie." The courtroom went still. Safia's painted mask began to crack, but she wasn't finished. The night before the judge was to announce the verdict, a fire broke out at Sidi and Mzanzi's home. It started in the nursery. Zina was inside. Sidi crashed through a burning window to save her, barely making it out alive. He was rushed to the ICU with second-degree burns. The investigators found a melted silver pendant in the nursery, one that belonged to Safia, but she denied everything. "I was home all night," she said, smiling to the press. "These accusations are beneath me." But someone knew the truth, Keisha. She confronted her mother in private. "I know you lit that fire," she whispered, "and if you don't confess, I swear I will." Safia slapped her. "You think I won't burn again?" Safia hissed. "I built this empire with fire." That was the last time anyone saw Keisha alive. Keisha's body was found at the base of Lion's Head Mountain 3 days later. No bruises, no signs of a struggle, just a single rose placed on her chest. The case was ruled a suicide, but Mzanzi knew better. She didn't jump, she told the police. She was silenced. But with no evidence, no camera footage, and no DNA, there was nothing to tie Safia to the death. Until a mysterious package arrived at Mzanzi's home weeks later. Inside, a flash drive. On it, Keisha's voice, a final message. "If you're hearing this, it means she killed me. She told me years ago that if I ever betrayed her, I'd end up as just another tragic fall family headline. Don't let her win. Mzanzi, this fight is now yours." The final day of court came like a storm. Mzanzi stood alone, Sidi still recovering, Keisha buried. But she had Keisha's voice and her truth. She played the final message in court. Gasps, murmurs. One juror wiped away tears. When the judge spoke, the room went silent. "The child shall remain with Sidi and Mzanzi Fall. Full custody granted, and a formal investigation into Madame Safia Fall shall commence." Mzanzi didn't cheer. She just closed her eyes, whispered Keisha's name, and held Zina close. Outside, Safia was swarmed by press. Her face was still, her eyes dead. She said nothing, but as the cameras flashed, she smiled. A year passed. Sidi healed. Mzanzi gave birth to a baby boy named Keisho, a blend of Keisha and hope. Their media company became a pan-African empire. Zina grew strong and joyful, unaware of the war once waged over her soul. But peace doesn't last in a family built on secrets. And one evening, as Mzanzi tucked her children into bed, a voice came through the baby monitor. Not Sidi's, not the child's, but Safia's. "Tell me, Mzanzi, how do you plan to survive when the world realizes Zina isn't yours and Keisha was never Sidi's?" The monitor went dead. After the voice on the baby monitor, Mzanzi didn't sleep. She watched Keisha breathe all night, one hand clutching Zina's palm, the other curled into a tiny fist near his heart. The next morning, she confronted Sidi. "Is there anything I need to know?" she asked softly. Sidi frowned. "What are you talking about?" Safia spoke through the baby monitor last night. She said, "Keisha isn't yours." Sidi's breath caught. "That's impossible. I was with you, always. There's no one else." But in Mzanzi's heart, a seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to grow. Desperate for answers, Mzanzi visited the birthing clinic where Keisha was delivered. The head nurse hesitated when asked about records. Her eyes flicked toward the wall clock, then to the door. "Madame Fall," she whispered, I cannot speak on this here. Too many ears. Mzanzi slid her a number and walked away. Hours later, the nurse called, voice shaking. I remember something strange. A woman visited the delivery ward the night before you gave birth. She said she was your cousin. She had money. Asked to switch the blood vials used for paternity tracking. I refused. She threatened my family. Who was she? Mzanzi asked, her voice cold. A pause. Then, it was Madame Safia. With the world turning upside down again, Mzanzi did something she hadn't done in years. She returned to the township, to the hills behind her childhood village where the bone reader lived. The woman, old as the wind, eyes clouded with time, had once told Mzanzi, "Your future will bloom in a garden that was never yours." Now Mzanzi asked her, "Whose blood flows in my veins?" The bone reader placed her hand over Mzanzi's stomach, then over her chest, then whispered, "You are not who you were told you were." "What do you mean?" "Your mother was not poor." The truth unraveled like a thread caught on fire. Mzanzi's real mother had once been a wealthy politician's daughter in Pretoria, Zafira Dlamini, believed to have died in childbirth under mysterious circumstances. But the baby vanished, stolen by a nurse bribed by a rival family, the Fall family. Sidi's grandfather had orchestrated it to cover up a political scandal. The Dlamini child was handed off to a poor rural family to erase her. That child was Mzanzi, which meant everything that happened, all the love, the hate, the war, was destiny twisting back toward justice. Armed with this truth, Mzanzi ordered a private test on Kisho's DNA, not just to confirm paternity, but to trace lineage, and the results shattered her soul. Kisho's father was indeed Sidi, but Kisho also carried Dlamini royal blood markers. Somehow, impossibly, Kisho's blood was purer than hers, which meant Zafira Dlamini didn't die in childbirth, and Mzanzi was never the baby. She was the decoy. The storm broke on a Tuesday. A woman, graceful, regal, with scars hidden behind gold sunglasses, arrived at the Fall estate in Durban. "I'm here for my grandson," she said. Mzanzi stared. I am Zafira Dlamini," she said, "and I want to know why the child with my blood was born from a girl who isn't my daughter." Sidi tried to speak. Mzanzi shook her head. She stepped forward. "Then who am I?" Zafira smiled, a bitter, haunted smile. "You were my shadow, a stolen soul planted in poverty to keep my enemies confused. But now I think you deserve to know." Zafira revealed everything. After her real daughter was kidnapped, the Fall family created a double, an orphan girl surgically altered and raised by handlers to match the missing heiress should questions ever arise. But things went wrong. War erupted. The Fall legacy fractured. The decoy, Mzanzi, was abandoned, until Sidi fell in love with her. But now, Zafira wanted to reclaim the family name, and take Kisho with her. "You are strong," Zafira said, "but you were never meant to be a mother to my blood. You were just a mirror, a shadow." But Mzanzi stepped forward, her voice calm, eyes filled with thunder. "I may not be your blood," she said, "but I bled for that boy. I almost died for him. That makes me more than a mother. That makes me unstoppable." Zafira said nothing, but her eyes promised war. In the background, unseen by both sides, Safia Fall watched. Her plan had worked better than she'd ever hoped. Zina was out of her reach. The Fall name was ruined, yes, but Mzanzi's past had now crumbled. Zafira and Mzanzi would tear each other apart, and in the ruins, Safia would return. Because hidden beneath the estate was something no one knew about, a sealed envelope, marked with the name Kisho Dlamini Fall. Inside was the one secret that could destroy everyone, including Sidi. Safia's final card sat hidden beneath the floorboards of the old Fall library, an envelope wrapped in oilskin, sealed with black wax. She mailed it anonymously to the press with only one instruction: release if I am found dead. 3 weeks later, she was collapsed in her estate garden, a glass of wine near her fingers. Toxicology confirmed cyanide. Suicide? No one believed that, but no suspect was ever named. And 2 days after her death, The envelope reached the newsroom of Africa Daily. Headline the next morning: Fall Empire Lies Exposed. Secret Child, Secret Pact, Secret Murder. The document inside the envelope wasn't just scandal, it was history. It revealed that Sidi Fall had made a pact with his mother years before Mzanzi entered the mansion. In exchange for access to family funds, he signed an agreement. If ever a child is born of a union that threatens the Fall legacy, I, Sidi Fall, agree to surrender all parental rights and title to that child. Signed, stamped, and witnessed by the family lawyer, which meant Keisho wasn't legally Sidi's anymore, and the Dilemmanist now had a legal right to claim him. The betrayal was unbearable. "You signed away our child," she screamed, tears shaking her voice, "before he was even born." "I didn't know you would come into my life," Sidi yelled back. "It was years ago. I was young. I was desperate. I thought it would never matter." "But it does now," she whispered. The house was silent. Zina peeked from the hallway. Keisho cried in the next room, and Mzanzi walked out of the house, barefoot, heartbroken, clutching her son. That night, she returned to the bone reader's hut. "Do I still have a choice?" she asked. The old woman nodded. "Always. But every choice now comes with a price." Zafira Dlamini returned with lawyers, guards, and power. She came to claim Keisho legally. The court had her case. The press had her back. But Mzanzi had something else. The people. The nation had watched her rise from maid to mogul, from shadow to mother. And they chose sides. Protests broke out in Johannesburg. Placards read, "Blood isn't bond. Mzanzi is his real mother. Let love win." But courts don't rule by sentiment, and the judge set the date for the final hearing. Zafira versus Mzanzi. Winner keeps Keisho. Days before the trial, Zina wandered into the old mansion's abandoned wing. She found a hidden room, dusty, forgotten. Inside was a journal, old, leather-bound, with a name engraved, Zafira. Zina showed it to Mzanzi that night. They read it together, page by page, and there, on the last page, was the truth. Zafira had lost 2 daughters. One was the heiress, the other born out of wedlock, with a man the family never approved of, smuggled away to a poor family, to protect the true legacy. That second child was Mzanzi. Armed with the journal, Mzanzi entered the courtroom with her head high. Sidi stood beside her. Zafira looked elegant, ruthless, cold, but when the judge asked if anyone had final evidence, Mzanzi submitted the journal. Zafira went pale. "I never wrote that," she said. But the handwriting matched. The ink was aged, and the court confirmed the authenticity. Zafira sat down slowly, tears falling from the corners of her eyes. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I thought you died with the midwife." The court went still. "You're not just my daughter," Zafira said. "You're the one I lost and fought against." The judge turned to her. "Do you still wish to pursue custody of your grandson?" Zafira looked at Mzanzi, then at Keisho, then shook her head. "No, Your Honor. I came to take him, but I've already taken too much." Zafira left the courtroom quietly. The world finally knew the truth. The headlines changed. The maid was the heiress all along. Blood proves nothing. Love proves everything. Sidi and Mzanzi renewed their vows in a quiet ceremony under acacia trees. Zina held the rings. Keisho slept in his grandmother Zafira's lap. There were still wounds, still scars, still ghosts in mirrors, but for once, peace. And on the day of their anniversary, Mzanzi released her memoir. Title, "The Price of Falling in Love Outdodged My Circle." It ended with the words, "I wasn't born a queen. I was shaped by fire, betrayal, and love. And in the end, I didn't marry a prince. I married a storm. And together, we raised the sun."